On our recent trip to America, we managed to secure a really good deal on flying upper class with Virgin Atlantic. The flight cost a mere £694 per person, flying out to New York in upper class and returning to London Heathrow in premium. A heck of a bargain when you consider upgrade bids for upper class start at around £500, and you can easily pay well over £1,000 per person just for premium. Naturally, we snapped up this deal, and what was more, the outbound flight was to be on the brand new A330Neo, so we were very excited. However, a few weeks after booking, we got the dreaded email from Virgin about flight alterations, and the A330Neo, which we had not flown on yet, was being replaced by an A350 for our flight. Bummer. So we jumped on the phone, did a bit of haggling and negotiating with Virgin, and ended up swapping out our return flight for one on the new Neo craft, and also managed to get ourselves upgraded to upper class using our points. A pretty decent outcome, all things considered. So on the way out, we flew in upper class on the A350, links in the description to our reviews on that flight, and you can follow along with the whole trip in our new video series that details our latest trip across the States. But let's pick up that story at JFK Airport as we catch our Virgin Atlantic upper class flight back home aboard the brand new A330Neo. One advantage of flying upper class with Virgin is you get to use one of Virgin's clubhouses or partner lounges. There are only a handful of airports that actually have a Virgin Clubhouse, and JFK is one of those, so we start our upper class experience here in the Clubhouse. Check-in and security were a breeze as we got an upper class check-in line and priority security, meaning we got from curbside to lounge in around 40 minutes, including a little shopping. There is no time limit on the lounge, so we got there nice and early despite a pretty horrid drive through manic Manhattan traffic. We headed in and got a nice spot in the pretty quiet lounge right by the windows overlooking the airport. The design of the lounge is inspired by New York and had a cool Britannia vibes along with New York themes such as the skyline inspired woodwork that meanders around the chaotic layout of the lounge. There are a large amount of seating options, but some of them are a bit more form over function. The food was excellent with some delicious chicken wings, a fantastic chicken and lemon burger, New York cheesecake and a great cheese board being our choices. Drinks were also excellent with endless champagne pours and some great cocktails along with a few local brews on offer. Overall, it's a great lounge. If you want to know more, you can see our full review or head over to your USA City Guide for our in-depth guide. The link's in the description, but overall expect a cool and relaxed lounge experience. After the lounge, we headed to our gate to board the plane. Space Oddity. The Neo is the latest addition to Virgin's fleet and is replacing the now aging A330s. The upper class cabin in the older A330s is looking a bit tired, so it's great to see Virgin has not only refreshed the cabin, but given entire root and branch reworking. It bears nothing in common with the old herringbone design, and is now a series of totally enclosed private booths. Pretty swanky. Of course, the A330Neo is more than just a cabin upgrade. The Neo, which stands for New Engine Option, is a totally upgraded version of the A330, with newer, more eco engines, upgraded avionics and superior aerodynamics. The A330 is still a very competent aircraft, and the Neo is just a natural evolution. For the most part, passengers will not notice much difference. After all, the Neo is actually 95% A330, but the new cabin upgrades and layouts, especially in upper class, are something you will definitely notice, as the A330's cabins were getting very tired. Upon boarding, we received a welcome glass of bubbly, had our dinner orders taken, along with our first drinks orders for when we reached cruise, and also discussed breakfast preferences, whether we wanted waking for breakfast or if we wanted to sleep right through until the descent, all very cordial and professional. We then took some time to look around our seat. There were loads of little cubby holes and storage points, something that is missing on the other cabins, so we were able to settle in and still have our headphones and devices on us for taxi and takeoff. Kate loved the little hook for her bag, so that Binks was on hand for her the whole flight. We received a basic amenities pack containing a toothbrush, pen, eye mask, earplugs, socks and various toiletries. We also got a set of PJs as this was a night flight. The seat is a large leather recliner and moves around electronically via the rather complicated seat controls. We never really worked out what these did, so we just fiddled around until we got it right for us. We were seated in the middle rows, which meant we could lower the divide and speak to each other, but if we were solo, the divide is full length so you can completely block out the other seat. The door is also full length, so with the divider up and the door closed you have full 360-degree privacy. This is a first for a Virgin cabin, and really nice to have. Although people can still peer over the top, that's not such a big deal. The tray table slides out from the console, and while this is nicely done, the table itself is pretty shonky. Look at that wobble. First impressions were impressive, but only a long flight will show if the seat is actually any good. Our flight was quite late taking off, and we had a long hold on the ground, but this was not a bad spot to pass time, and eventually we headed for takeoff. As we were in the middle rows, we did not get to see much during takeoff, and the screens did not offer any kind of tail cam or such like, which is pretty disappointing. Once up and into the cruise, our first drink arrived that we had already pre-ordered on the ground. The Inflight entertainment system was really nice in the way that it worked. At first we found the seat layout to be really problematic, the screen was too far away, and even the light and call buttons were totally inaccessible. However, they do provide this remote control, which means everything can be controlled without really moving. However, I did get tied up a few times in the wires, even pulling a drink over on myself. At least I hadn't paid for it. While the in-flight entertainment is really modern and the screen fantastic, the actual content is really lacking. Vera used to be so good, but we find the current lineup to be really disappointing. There were only a few movies that we really wanted to see, and I ended up listening to music rather than watching many films. Connectivity though was really good, with lots of plug points and charger ports. The social space aboard, known as the loft, is a much vaunted feature of the aircraft, but we were really not fans. The seating is really high and apparently designed to encourage you to interact with each other, but we just found it uncomfortable. There is a really neat beer fridge, but on this night flight it was not stocked, and all that was on offer was a few crisps, fruit and snacks. We much prefer the social spaces on other aircraft, especially the 787 bar area. The other much advertised feature of this cabin is the retreat suite. This is a spacious cabin up at the front of the aircraft, but as this was occupied by other customers, we didn't really get to check it out too much. The main meal was served shortly after we hit cruise altitude, the aim being to get it out of the way so we could convert our seats to lie flat and get some sleep. This seemed to suit most passengers down to the ground. Our starter was a smoked duck breast and it was quite stunning, a good portion and really succulent and tasty. Not everyone's cup of tea, but we loved it. For the main course I had pre-ordered a lobster paella, while Kate went with the chicken meatballs with truffle pasta, not on the menu but this was offered as a pre-order. This is definitely worth doing as you do get some exclusive options. The paella was really good. The lobster tail was pretty tiny, but that is to be expected. It was decently cooked and not rubbery at all. The chicken meatballs, however, were a disaster, really tough and dry, and about as close to inedible as you're going to get. For dessert there was a mixed berry almond cake with cream, which was delicious, and a chocolate mousse cake which was okay, but felt a bit like it was from IKEA. For once we didn't order a cheese board, but did both still order some port as an after dinner drink. Virgin really does not try very hard with their upper class bathrooms. They are basically the same as the economy loos, and in fact we were required to share the bathrooms with premium. The horror! They stayed pretty clean throughout the flight and provided everything you need, but were just a bit underwhelming. With dinner over and our first movie out of the way, and a bedtime drink of Bailey's hot chocolate inside us, we hit the transform button on the beds, slunk into the Virgin PJs and tried out the fully lie-flat bed to see how comfy they really are. And it's bad news, unfortunately. Of the 3 newer aircraft, this is easily the worst sleeper. We were pretty taken aback by this, as we anticipated it to be the best. All the signs were this was the number one. Fully lie-flat bed, full privacy cubicle, everything you might need or want. However, the bed is far more suited to Dracula than it is to us still in the land of the living. When laid flat, the bed is crazy low down, and you are now confined on all sides by various parts of the cubicle, and it most closely resembles a coffin. Your feet have minimal room, there is only really just enough space to lie on your back, and the opportunities for alternate positions are really minimal. We are not big people. Kate is only 4'10", but there was just such limited space. Taller or wider people are really going to struggle. In the end, I aborted and just listened to some music while snoozing in a more upright position. We found the lie-flat position to be really disappointing. It just did not offer a comfortable experience at all, at least not for us. We always get visions of upper class flights solving all our tiredness issues, as we can actually sleep properly on the plane. However, this is rarely true, and even with all this luxury, when the alarm goes, it's still a shock. As we started to come round, breakfast was served, and it was pretty shocking. The sausage seemed still raw, the eggs just stomach churning, and really, I just drank the coffee. Kate sensibly went for a breakfast roll instead, which was a little more palatable, but after only 2 to 3 hours of rubbish sleep, neither of us fancied much. With a nasty breakfast now gurgling in our stomachs, we headed for the runway. The descent into Heathrow was a little delayed, and there was a pretty wild storm raging in London, but somehow in the end we landed on time, and it was still dark outside the windows. Overall, we found the new upper class cabin on the A330Neo a little disappointing. We were really looking forward to this flight, but the reality of the cabin was underwhelming. The privacy of the super plush cabins was a real boon, but the fully lie flat bed experience was pretty awful. The feeling of being trapped in a coffin was quite severe, and we were really not fans of the social space. The meal was also a mixed bag, and the breakfast was appalling, but we think these were down to the individual flight and not this cabin or the general service. We should make a few things clear though. 1. This review is focused on the A330neo's new cabin and comparing it to the A350 and the 787 cabins, not the overall upper class experience with Virgin. The flight overall was amazing, the crew were incredible with super fast service in a friendly and professional manner, as we always expect from Virgin cabin crews. The lounge and airport experience was superb, the in-flight drinks and most of the food great, we were treated like kings, and we would happily recommend a Virgin upper class flight to anyone. The second thing to note was that this was a return flight and an overnight flight. If this was a day flight, the seat would have been fantastic, the in-flight entertainment screen was amazing, and the lack of choice would have been the same across all aircraft. The 360-degree privacy and enclosed pod felt awesome, and there were so many little hidey holes and nooks, we still think we would be finding things after many flights on this aircraft. It was only when we came to go lie flat that it all fell apart. So overall, if you were booked on a Virgin A330neo, don't worry too much, we are really sure you will have a great flight. It's just maybe if you are looking to really get some sleep, maybe consider the much better sleep properties of the A350 or the 787. The 787 in particular, for us, slept really well. The seat flips fully over and gives a true flat base to sleep on. It lacks the privacy, sure, but it slept a lot better in our opinion. Although some people do find the bed too hard. You can find links to reviews on both of these aircrafts in the description below. Finally, we need to appreciate the fact that this was our flight home after a truly amazing trip. We were always a little grumpy on the way back. We had a date in Richmond with Ted Lasso, but we're in no fit state to go near a car just yet, so headed to the newly reopened Revivals Lounge. As the flight touched down so early in the day and we were still probably a little over the drink drive limit, we really could not head straight out of the airport. So it was amazing to have the Revivals Lounge on offer. This is only available to upper class guests flying into London Heathrow, so it's a nice little addition. The main lounge area is pretty small and the offering fairly limited, but it gives you a nice and comfortable spot to relax and come round and get ready for the day. As I had to drive later, I stuck to the tea, but Kate grabbed one last glass of bubbly. After recuperating in the lounge for a while, we decided to grab a nice recovery shower. This was a great feeling and really blew the cobwebs off. While the lounge was small, the shower area was huge with an endless corridor filled with showers. After letting the sun come up and letting some time pass us by, we finally left the lounge and headed into the cold, rainy weather of London Heathrow, and off to our hotel where we could recover fully before the long drive home tomorrow, after checking out some Ted Lasso filming locations in Richmond. We hope you enjoyed the review. Please remember to like and subscribe our channel to loads more airline content and travel content in general.